Well, hello everyone. Here right here, I'm talking about with using Acrobat here, and we can all see this right here. Shown right here is a PDF file example right here, but we're also talking about that whenever it comes to PDF files, right? That if we're talking about just a one-page document right here, but then it winds up turning out to be about maybe 2 or 3 pages, and you have this option right here to where if you want to go ahead and insert an additional page, and maybe if you want to make any edits or improvements or anything like that. But it sure seems that way that when we do think about a PDF file, by the way, that the first thing that's maybe going to be come to your mind is that, okay, it's a file, but still that another way of how you want to call it is to where that can we look at, like, maybe which one is the front page and which one is supposed to be the back side of the page. And like, let's just say if you're going to be placing this into a folder that you would know, that like the arrangements and all that. So it's like, yeah, Acrobat will give you that ability to where you can move the pages around and all that. But we're talking about, electronically printed documents that were created and converted into a file. And don't we maybe think that the same thing that maybe we would be looking at these pages right here on an actual desk, like if you're looking at them on a table. But with these examples right here, you're actually looking at them, and it looks like to me that yeah, like everybody say that you're actually looking at them, using a screen. And so a lot of times it's like whenever you do look at it that way, that like if you're going to be looking through a catalog, right? It looks a lot smaller. Those items look a lot bigger whenever you actually see them. And like anybody say, before you go ahead and order something, that you're looking at a catalog just like this right here. Maybe something a little bit smaller, and you may not know how big it really is, and maybe for how it's advertised, right? But still, you have this right here, this document right here, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, whenever you do think about Acrobat, by the way, that you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, that this right here is supposed to be like an Office additional type program, to where a software program to where you can actually you had the ability to where that you can handle documents. You can handle these pages right here if they were actually printed pages. If you're going to be looking at them, if they were be sitting on a desk, like if they're instead of all gathered around, like instead of all of them in stacks, that you actually are able to see the front portions of the pages right here. So really, that why would really, in case if anybody's wanting to know too, that this right here looks a lot different from what you're used to seeing these pages by. A lot of times you always want to know too that you had this right here, this option where you can insert from web page, insert from scanner, and add a custom page. So this is the type of stuff that you would use every day, but we're talking about electronic documents. So you always want to know too that I don't see the paperclip option in here. Maybe the stapler or something like that. I see the cut, but you don't and I know the paperclip option is available, but still that you might even say too that you're used to seeing maybe the highlighter, and maybe if you're used to seeing paper clips, and you might even yeah, the masking, like, yeah, masking tape or something like that. But still that whenever you do think about page 1, 2, and 3 right here, and everybody might even say too that you have this option where you can rotate the picture right here, you can rotate it right here, and then you see these tools right here. You see all these tools right here, and you're always want to know too that this right here is supposed to be just like opening up the drawers and the cabinets on the left side and on the right side, right? So you have these tools right here, but like everybody might even want to know too that there are a few things that look quite a bit different about it. Just knowing about the fact that whenever you look at these, and you're warned toward it that for how to like So if you click on the arrow right here, and it takes you to the file directory, right? And so that's why it seems like that each time you do think about that, and your 102 is toward the file directory, and so you're thinking is that when we do talk about that, whenever it comes to understanding about the Acrobat, Acrobat Reader and all that, and that you're able to see these files right here, and want to know too that you look at those files, and you're thinking is toward that looking at this PDF file right here is supposed to be the same, pretty much the same thing as looking at it directly if it was actually sitting there on the table, right? And you're want to know too that if it's supposed to be like that, to where you're supposed to be looking at it if it was going to be sitting right there on the table, and thinking that but still you're looking at that right there, and so it's like when we do talk about that, you'll combine files, the PDF right here, and click on that right there, and at 102 that so you got these different files here, and want to know that you got these files right here, but really not everybody is really going to know what all these are for right here. So it's like whenever you do use Acrobat for any reason at all, that you're thinking as toward why do you think that this portion right here of the assignment right here would be what you call the most complicated portion right here. And everybody might even say that, well, really, one of the reasons why it is so complicated right here is just because that they don't really know that those right there are supposed to be pages right there. Yeah, those are pages right there, and knowing that you see right here. Yeah, those are pages right there. But not everybody knows that, by the way. People might even want to know too that whenever you first start using the Acrobat program, that the first thing that's really going to be coming to your mind is that this right here, that I would not have guessed that these right here were supposed to be pages all stacked together right here. I would maybe guessed as to where that that's just something that's on the screen, or whichever you want to call it, but still that so the first thing that's really going to be thinking that everybody thinking about is that this is the stuff that we we use them every day for those who would really need to be trained on how to use the software and all that. But you're always want to know too that you it looks like right here you can really only tell that it's just one document right here. But if we have about maybe 3 or maybe 4 or 5 pages right behind there, you would not be able to know the difference unless if you actually looked at it closely, and unless if you were actually familiar with how all this was working right here. So that is why it seems like everybody might say that if we're talking about maybe file attachments or something like that on the email, that how would you really even know that this right here is supposed to be a page document right here, that it's a PDF file document, but you're given this option to where you can now create a new location, or create a new folder for it, and combine other pages. You combine other documents, using Acrobat right here. So that's why it seems like that you're looking at this right here, and the first thing that's really going to be coming to your mind is that you would not be able to tell if this right here was supposed to be page 1, page 2, and page 3 until you actually see this right here. You got these arrows right here where you can actually go to first and second page right here, and but still that But you see this, I'm like, yeah, with these other tools and all, but I just really think in a lot of ways that when we do, all changes will, yeah. But anyway, so this right here is a document that I was working on. Yeah, classwork right here. But I'm just showing everybody here that this right here, yeah, some of your work right here. But if you're going to have any PDF files, by the way, that some of those files and like yeah, anything confidential or anything like that, but you're always thinking this toward okay, yeah, that whenever you do talk about PDF, Adobe Acrobat, by the way, that you're thinking is toward okay, yeah, that I really don't even know what that means right there. So I guess you could probably say is toward the best way of how to explain Acrobat is just by saying is toward yeah, it's an office program, or if anything, it's the mail room, the place where that's where where a lot of ink and paper material are stored and all that, or maybe office appliance, you know, your place or your office area or something like that. But still, that when you do think about that, and you're warned toward it, yeah, that pretty much the similar things that you see here is really what you would normally see at a desk, right? You see right here measure, and then you see this send for comments and comment and stamps, and then compare files and share files. And so you would normally see stuff like this if you were actually sitting at a desk right here. And so it's like, so whenever you do think about this desk right here, and everybody might even say too that if you were to actually sit at a desk and just want to know that some things that you may not or not normally usually see, and some things that you might maybe not even really want to deal with for sure. Like you probably want to know too that whenever you do think about that you'll want to know too that a lot of things that you probably just don't want to bother with and don't want to deal with and all that. But still, but at the same time, there again that when we do talk about pages and documents right here, that really, how are you really going to know unless if you just go ahead and like yeah, get the proper training and all that. But like everybody might say that one thing about Acrobat that you could maybe think about is that all these buttons and all these switches and everything, you just don't want to take the time to learn them. And like people might say, yeah, well, especially this right here. The more the three dots right here, like the command right here, and then that gives you more options to where you can insert a blank page, insert from a web page, and then also insert from scanner. So you got these options here, and so really that so whenever you do think about that, and you're wondering that this right here is only 3 pages right here, only 3 pages, and in case if anybody's wondering that yeah that right click on there, you insert page, add a custom page, and how to duplicate a page, and so I'm like yeah. Everybody might want to know too that yeah, do a duplicate, which is up a menu, yeah, insert page right here, blank page. So there's a way you could do that. Extract pages. So in a lot of ways that you always want to know too that if the way that you're looking at this right here is that you have this option where you can delete the page if you want to go ahead and maybe move the pages to a different location right here. But all these pages right here are all saved onto one PDF file document. So right now what we're doing is that you're extracting edits, that we're doing editing right here, and like so there's any changes that you would need to make to this document right here. But still it says to if you asked if you want to go ahead and save any changes. but still, but whenever you do think about this, and you always want to know too that other than a game of cards and all that, these are supposed to be pages right here that you're using. Why can't you just think about it as toward, okay, yeah, pages right here, paperwork, and so it's like, yeah, it looks a lot smaller than maybe from what you're used to looking at it by it, but you're thinking as toward if we're talking about maybe up to 5 to maybe 10 pages total, and you weren't toward it, maybe you thought maybe 3 pages was enough. Well, you think about that is toward maybe maybe a stack of maybe 10 or maybe 50 pages. Maybe it's just a little bit too much. But still, it's like whenever you do look at these pages right here, and you're thinking this toward, okay, yeah, that what you really are doing right here is that you're trying to reorganize those pages, and what you really are trying to do, I'm like, yeah, you're trying to identify these pages right here. So like, let's just say that whenever you first open up the document, you couldn't tell what those pages were, and that's one of the reasons why that you opened it, and then you have these options here to where that you're like, yeah, other adjustments, and so that's why it seems like that whenever you do think about Acrobat, that you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, Acrobat, that's advanced acro or something like that, but still that software program, but still that you have these programs to where you can actually pull up and view documents yeah, by digital electronic print right here. But we're also talking about is that is there a way, an easier way of knowing about if we're talking about maybe 10 or more pages, that you're able to look at all these pages just like this right here. And they say just to make it a little bit more easier that you can go ahead and you have this option right here to where you can actually rotate the page just like that right there, add more pages, and anything that you would like to insert, like you got the insert and extract tabs and all that right there. So you're warned toward it, yeah, so most of these options right here would be the similar options right here, just knowing about it, that if you're going to be looking at them, like if they're going to be sitting on the table, right? And so that's why it seems like you got pages 1, 2, and 3. But whenever you first started using the Acrobat Reader, that you may be used to just looking at just one document and just want to know too that okay, that one document, they had the readable information on there, and 102 that hey, that one document that's going to maybe take you about maybe 5 or 10 minutes just to be able to read it, and then you go to the next page, right? And that's why it seems like that whenever you do look at these pages right here, and 102, that why do you think that maybe everybody would maybe much rather say is toward, okay, yeah, that the paperwork and all that, but still, anything else important that you probably say is toward, okay, yeah, that you're going to have this paperwork right here, but people might even say that okay, yeah, if anything, my job would be is to just pick a place to store the files rather than to deal with looking at them, reading the paperwork, maybe signing the paperwork, and dealing with the process and all that. So that's why it seems like that the first time that you may have used Acrobat Reader, by the way, is knowing about you had the commands that automatically work, and like everybody might say that yeah, use the autofill or use the standard settings or something like that. And a lot of professionals might even say too that they find that to be very handy, by the way, whenever they click on a document, and that they want to know too that you really set the controls to where that you can actually have it to where the Acrobat Reader would actually do that for you. It would actually check that for you and actually do. So that's why it seems like that you think about Acrobat Reader, and more likely that just like Word, that what are the chances that maybe somebody's going to say that they'll use it more, once there's a tool that's going to go ahead and give them a jump start, for the job. And so in a lot of ways, it's like if we're talking about maybe one, two, or maybe 3 pages right here total, that you're warranted to word, okay, yeah, insert, another page, from file right here, and so that's why it seems like that, every time you think about that, and you're warranted to where that, okay, that, you know, I don't know what all this stuff is right here, and location after. So whenever you do insert more pages right here, you see this right here, and now it's 7 pages altogether, and so like everybody might say that not everybody really wants to mess with all this. By the way, people might say that it's paper. It's kind of like it's an example of paper clutter, but at the same time, what you're using is actually the location electronically, and so half the time it sure seems that way. That if we're talking about 7 pages right here, if you actually were to be opening this up using the reader edition, for sure that you might think that okay, yeah, if you're going to be send these pages to a client, by the way, that do you think that maybe that you would need to include a cover letter explaining about that this right here, the first 2 pages right here, you explain what that from the original, and then yeah, you include the original cover letter about what you were working on, and maybe a reference page, and 2 or 3 other pages, and then maybe the last page, or maybe the middle page is that's a duplicate, so half the time it sure seems that way that when we do talk about electronic documents, by the way, you do the research and talk about electronic documents, it seems like people might say is to where why do you think that there seems to be a lot more than what is originally what's really there, and like everybody might say that if you actually looked at it really carefully, do you find a lot more than what's really there, and knowing that really you don't really want to take time to look at all this stuff right here. And so that's why it seems like that insert blank page right here. So you have this right here to where that you're able to view these documents if they were actually sitting at a desk, right? And you're warned to where that you know yeah, if we're talking about up to 7 pages, and maybe if there's no titles, or maybe if they're not all organized and all that, and like everybody might say that which I know people might even say could you even had that ability where you can actually rearrange a lot of the pages right here. Yeah, you had that ability where you can move the pages around just like that right there. Just like if you're going to be looking at it from a table right here, right? So you're basically are rearranging this right here, changing these around. So originally that you saved these files right here as like if they were in a proper order, but now since you're flipping them around, and people want to know too, do you really have to explain to your clients what you were doing here? On my page 1 and page 2, that was changed around. This right here, you did this right here. I'm like, yeah, this right here, which that was at the last page. So it's like, yeah. So every time you do that, and you always want to know too that what do you think that you need to explain to somebody about why you did that and what you were doing? And it's like, yeah. Other than playing a game of cards, right? Whenever you had the cards, by the way, you would have to normally you would have the front and back of the page right there, but it seems like that whenever you're looking at all that paperwork, by the way, do you have that option really where you had the front and back page? Like, no, it's this right here. You just one page, but if you were to arrange that, you have it, the front and back of the page right there. But still, but we're talking about digitally right here. We're talking about electronic version of these pages here. So it sure seems that way. That the first page, second page, yeah, you move those around, by the way, and now it still says page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. But, they were kind of all changed around just like that. So you're warned toward, okay, yeah, that if they're not all in order, and let's just say that if you were to be looking at these very closely right here, that if they were all stapled together, by the way, if they were all stapled together, then maybe would that be a problem? And somebody might say that, well, really, that if they really had to go in any particular order, but anybody who's going to be looking at those pages for sure, they're going to say that, hey, that, this is not in proper order right here, and, that's a problem, because, we need a, just to get a better understanding that they need to be in the proper order. So it's like, so like everybody might say that doing the virtual meetings, by the way, anybody looking at these documents, by the way, are probably going to say that, it may not be a big deal to you just because that you already know what these documents say right here, right? You may know what these pages say right here, but thinking about those, anybody who's needing to review these pages right here, they don't know what it says right here, so they're not really able to tell really what the difference is, and so maybe what source of tool could you possibly use for that? Like, the magnifying glass, we'll click on the magnifying glass just to be able to look closely at it. But we're talking about 7 pages right here that maybe not everybody is really going to want to mess with, and so that's why it seems like that, you're thinking as to where really, whose job really is that, really to explain. But on the other hand, it's like just to be able to train you for a new exercise for sure. Like everybody might say that this is the type of stuff that, most professionals, if you're going to be working in an office, this is the stuff that we use every day, at least once a year, just to take a few minutes just to look at review it just to see, make sure everything is all there, especially if it's around tax time, that it would be a good idea to go ahead and look through it. And so that's why it seems like that every time you think about that, by the way, that you might think as toward, okay, it's just a file. It's just a file, it's there. I never bothered to read it, whichever, but still. Yeah, it's just a file, but at the same time, if it's something real important for sure, like everybody else might say that if you do wind up like, how can you really show responsibility and empathy whenever it comes to understanding about, paperwork, whenever it comes to handling a case and keeping things organized? One thing that you probably could possibly do is that, you might say that, I am willing to read this to a client. I'll be willing to read it. Read what this says right here. And so it sure seems that way that whenever you do think about that and you're warned toward it, this right here was supposed to be your desk right here, and you're warned toward, okay, this right here was supposed to be your desk right here. You're supposed to be looking at this, just to be able to determine your test score, and your 102. Okay, your test scores, right? And that's why it seems like that. Anybody might even say too that, I didn't have this back whenever I was a kid. I didn't have all these tools right here. Don't you think that maybe you would take about an extra 15 minutes of your time just to look over some of these tools, and some that you would maybe find neat, by the way? And 102, if you don't know anything about them, well, you can just look at them and take a little bit of time, just to learn a little bit about them. But still, you got right here the, prepare form, and then you got certifications, and then you got fill and signature, and then you got, send for comments, and then comments right here, and scan and OCR right here, and protect. So you have these different tools right here, but it sure seems that way that, everybody might even say too that, not everybody is really going to know a lot about them, and maybe if you're just going to say that you're not even going to use them very much, but still, how can you really answer that question toward you use this every day? Well, maybe you may not use everything every day, but really, what are these techniques and tools really going to teach you for the everyday basis? And one thing that you can maybe tell somebody is that, yeah, go ahead and read it out loud, and at least read it out loud, to your audience. Read one of these letters out loud to somebody, and at least that's one thing that you can't do. Tell everybody that, yeah, you can at least deliver the papers, or if anything, read it out loud. But still, it's like whenever you do look at this right here, and just to kind of answer everybody's question as to where you'll usually, what you usually get whenever you're doing any sort of presentation is nobody wants to take time to deal with 7-page or even 25-page file documents. And even if they did, then they would probably say they'll leave somebody else in charge of taking care of it. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, what would you learn if you did take the responsibility for that? And people might say is toward it, yeah, do you have to have a story to talk about that? But still, at the same time, and when we're talking about PDF file documents, by the way, or any other source of electronic document, that the key factor to remember though is that these tools right here, be lucky to do that you have them, right? But there at the same time, then whenever you're looking at these right here, is toward what can these really teach us for our everyday basis? And you're thinking as toward, okay, yeah, what can they really teach me for my everyday basis? Well, they'll teach me that it's a lot of work, number one. But there, it's like, really, what does it say? And who's in charge of reading it, and maybe who's in charge of looking at it, and just to know what it's for and all that, and maybe if anything is to provide the information. And so that's why it might seem like looking at it just like this right here, everybody might say that it looks like a bunch of marching ants, or whichever you want to call it, walking around on the page. Or if anything, no, it looks like just a bunch of scribbling marks, all lined up right there, or whichever. But still, so it sure seems that way that whenever you're looking at a document like that, and you want to know too that what's one thing that you can tell about how it's all arranged right here than compared to an actual paper document? I could probably tell you everybody too. One, you don't see the front and back portion of the document, and if there was any pages right behind here, well, like everybody say that it's all kind of all spread out just like this. So if you actually say those documents, and you would maybe not be able to tell how many pages are included in that one compressed file document there. And so it's like so you probably thinking this tool, really, if you took the time to look very carefully at a lot of these right here in 102, that do you look at them just like flashcards, or maybe windows waiting to be worked, or something like that, any sorts of agendas or anything like that? But still, that we're talking about 7 pages right here. Those 7 pages are more likely going to be in the same spot, from the last time that you used them. By the way, it could be maybe 6 months from now. They could be in the same spot, and really, all you really had to do, of course, was to keep them organized and keep them clean, and just learning about, how they work, right? And so that's why it seems like that every time you do think about that, you take the time to learn a little bit about them, and for sure that gradually it's going to work at its own pace. It's like, yeah, what sorts of tool do you think that would, what sorts of technique, do you think that would be able to do the job for you, if you worked hard enough at it, right? But way I think about too, though, is understanding about,